or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer? The Drug Facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the Drug Facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/Drug Facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
100 years ago, there were 100,000 tigers in the wild. Today, there are as few as 3,200. The Earth's wild animals can't speak up when they need help, but we can. Be the voice for those who have no voice. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from Town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Okay, Merry Christmas, Hugh. Merry Christmas, Mario.
Yeah, you too, Lawrence. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to everybody who's
the
up.
Maxwell family. Merry Christmas to the listeners. Anybody wise enough to get up 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning to listen to our show. We're here. This is the end of the year for us. This is
phone number is.
This is it, and we're going to make this about our. We do have a guest at 8, but we're going to make this hopefully about our listeners. Our phone number here is 331-9255. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to exchange Christmas greetings with you. So we're going to start off today's show with an annual tradition.
Yeah.
How many years now, have you been writing your Christmas wish list?
You know, Mario, I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to call it 30, which would cover the 3-4 papers that I've worked for, and it was in all of them. It started out as kind of a whim. I'd see people on the street, and I'd think of what they did or didn't do during the year, and come up with some kind of a gag gift. And it was meant was meant in the spirit of the season, because I get to play the Grinch for the other 51 weeks of the year, and pick on these people mercilessly. So around Christmas time, I try to say something nice about them or something funny, and it is the spirit of Christmas. So we were going to do an Abbott and Costello routine this morning.
Well, what I have found, when I read the Christmas list, is a lot of this is just inside stuff. Yeah. So I thought maybe what might be nice today is for you to share some of these inside,
jokes
and with everybody, so we can have a little more fun with this. So,
well, let me just clarify that. My boss used to get on me once in a while because he didn't know any of the jokes. In fact, nobody other than me knows all of them.
Yep.
And that's he says no. He says nobody knows these jokes. I said no, actually everybody does. Everybody on that list.
Yep.
It's very rare when the person who I refer to doesn't understand, what the inside joke, which is kind of politics anyway, which is an inside joke.
Yeah.
And for a change, I get to write the inside jokes.
Exactly. So I want to start with mine because for me you gave Pennies from Heaven.
Well, Catalano and I walk almost every, I guess 5 days a week, Mario, I guess it works out. And we walk for between 3 and 4 miles, depending how we're feeling.
We have by way of full disclosure,
Yeah.
we walk hard because we're trying to stay one step ahead of guys like Bernie Gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so.
And
Undertakers.
yeah, and he's right behind us these days. Yeah, the Undertaker. So Catalano has been fortunate to have a very successful dental career, and he has a couple of nice cars and a trophy wife and a nice house. He's got just about everything, materially and spiritually, I would say. He's a happy man for the most part. Those of you who don't know him, he's also rather tall. What are you, about 6'3", Mario?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we're walking along, if he spots a penny on the street, he will stop in his tracks and then bend over. And the last time he tried to retrieve this penny, he kind of lost his balance. And I saved him, of course, because I was standing next to him. And this man will do anything for a penny. And his motto is better in my pocket than on the street. So that's where Pennies from Heaven came from.
Yeah, yep. All right. Well, that was a fair gift. Thank you. So I noticed that you started off with the state Supreme Court Judge Kevin Bryant. So I know that you and Kevin have a long history. We're very proud of Kevin. Locally, as a community, we're very proud of Kevin. So tell us about that one. Something in a long black robe. That's pretty straightforward.
The long black robe obviously is the robes of a Supreme Court justice, which he will don, I think, on Tuesday. They're having a swearing in at the courthouse, and it's sold out, as it were. It'll be one of the biggest crowds, and I think when we hear crowds these days, we get a little squeamish. But in any case, Kevin and the other two justices, who will forever be known as the other two justices, will be formally sworn in at the county courthouse, and then there'll be a reception at Wiltwick Country Club. Kevin is the first African American to sit on the 3rd District Supreme Court, which is 7 counties, including Ulster and Greene and Columbia, and then the Capital District, and Sullivan. Yeah, Sullivan.
Harry.
Yeah, Orange.
Albany.
No, is Orange?
Albany,
No, Albany. Yeah,
Rensselaer.
yeah, and he had been. In fact, I think he is until the end of the year. The City of Kingston's corporation council. Kingston has, in effect, 2 corporation councils, but in order to have a smoother transition, the Mayor Noble agreed to keep Kevin on. Plus, he could use the paycheck, And
I think that's a smart move, though.
It is. It was.
Having a seamless passing of
the particularly something like the corporation council. There's probably dozens and dozens of cases that are pending.
Well, he's getting sued every other day from Bender, so they've probably got enough work for 2.
Yeah, and Kevin is quite an interesting American story. In that he grew up as a child. He was raised at Rondout Gardens, which isn't exactly luxe housing, and some of the issues that he had to deal with there as a child, as a teenager, and basketball became his passion. He's a pretty good basketball player. Very good. He was a county all-star at Kingston High School. Unfortunately, they were lousy teams. He was the only star, and they didn't draw a lot of fans. And then he went to college and Albany Law School, practiced here in Kingston with Judge Mike Brune Jr.
Oh, okay.
So they were general practitioners, and then he became corporation counsel, and he is and will be a role model for other kids, particularly African American kids, who can look to this very accomplished man now in a in fact, the highest judicial office in our area. And so, congratulations, Kevin. As Mario said, we're all in our community very, very proud of you.
Yeah, that was a great one. That was nice to start off with them, and then you follow that with a gift for Dave Donaldson. It says your gift to him is postcards from the Edge. That sounds like a little odd.
Yeah, well, that's meant in the spirit of Christmas. Dave will have a lot of time on his hands now.
Got it.
He does spend a fair amount of time at his home in Florida.
Okay.
During the wintertime, but he'll be busy at something. Donaldson has been a public official for 35 years, about half of his adult life, and he lost a couple of elections this year, and will retire though as the chairman of the county legislature. Interesting development on that part of, I don't know if this is breaking news. It's not absolutely confirmed, but Democrats caucused, legislature Democrats caucused to nominate a chair for the next year.
Yeah.
And the person, I'm told, that got the there will be 16 Democrats out of 23 legislators in January. This is a redo, as it were. Tracy Bartles from
So they're gonna
Gardner will probably be the chairwoman again. And ironically, Tracy Bartles was chairperson, and then along came Dave Donaldson and bumped her off, and then he did a couple of terms. And their official portraits will hang in the side by side, actually, will hang in legislative chambers for eternity. And of course, the joke going around the legislature is you've got first as you're looking at what they call the Wall of Fame, you've got Tracy Bartles, Dave Donaldson, Tracy Bartles. So what you have is a thorn between two roses. I'm using up all my material for the column here. I got to save something.
Yeah, save a little. So all right. So that was it was nice of you to think of Dave. He's about to be Dave who, but
Dave Private Citizen.
Dave Private Citizen. Okay. So then you threw out
You can pick them at random if you want.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So how about Christine Hine? It says, a Christmas Eve visit from the governor.
Well, that goes back a couple.
Christine said she's at People's Place.
People's Place, which is, Christine, in my long experience of covering nonprofits and everything else in between, Christine Hine is without a doubt the most efficient public relations person I've ever seen. Hardly a week goes by when there isn't some noteworthy, and it's noteworthy. They do a lot of, People's Place does a lot of good work. I'm a volunteer there on there.
I'm a donor.
And you're a donor.
And we give them a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I work in their food delivery area. But the governor came to town twice, I think, that I know of, governor could have slipped into town, and actually she wouldn't have called me.
Yeah, and this governor's got her. She's on.
She's on the church circuit now, I think, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean she's rolling, rocking and rolling.
She is rocking.
She's got to snuff out all this competition in the primary.
Well, I think she snuffed out her main competition, a couple of Letitia James. But in any case, she came to Kingston twice that I know of. One time was. She was practically ignored by local Democrats who liked Letitia James at the time.
They were, they genuflecting at the time.
Yeah, but only on one knee.
Yeah, one knee, because you never know when the other shoe's going to go.
Stop. But then the other time, she came to town and she visited the Salvation Army.
Oh.
So
she gave out turkeys there.
She gave out turkeys, yes. And this had to have, the Salvation Army is not that far from People's Place. And People's Place is what's in the paper all the time. And the governor comes to town and doesn't come to People's Place, but I thought it was noteworthy.
But, I understand that governors can, do some things, but it apparently, People's Place has a direct line to the Ulster County Industrial Development Corporation. So they were given $100,000 to pass out $50 gift cards to 2,000 people. Tell me about all the inconsistencies and potential problems you see with. First of all, I'm looking at this from a whole different, all different perspectives. The Ulster County Development Corporation is supposed to create jobs and not be a charitable organization.
It's not a charitable organization.
Well, it is now. If you give $100,000 to a charitable cause, I think you become.
Well, they're giving away $26 million to the Kingstonians, so you might call that some kind of charity with our money.
Listen, I don't get me started.
All right, go ahead.
So the point that I'm trying to make is, I'm okay to a certain extent with throwing some of that money around. It's not going to create any jobs. That's their main focus. I always like it when organizations maintain a focus and actually execute on their mission versus trying to all this do-good stuff that essentially is almost anti-mission. And, it's nice, it's pretty, it sounds good, thank you, et cetera, but $50 gift cards, nothing. It's going to do almost nothing. And the other part that and again, I don't know the outreach of People's Place, but
it's pretty extensive.
If somebody from Ellenville has to drive to Kingston to get a $50 gift card, they spent $20 in gas. So what was this? Just a local deal, and the rest of the county doesn't count. I don't. I was a little disappointed. And not only that, but there are probably 40 or 50 really good organizations in town.
Good point. Yeah.
In Ulster County,
and they got nothing.
And they were the recipients of no anything.
Well, in the spirit of Christmas, why don't we move on? My colleague, my former, we're all colleagues, I guess, us old-timers. Paul Brooks, for instance, is an adjunct professor, I think, at SUNY New Paltz, and he teaches journalism.
Wow.
Paul was a really good reporter for the Middletown Record for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And so for him, we give Wide Awake students, which I understand are hard to find these days. Stacy Ryan, the director of Ulster County United Way, is retiring in June after some 30-odd years as head of that agency. And like People's Place, United Way does a lot of good work and helps a lot of people.
Yep.
And it's a challenge almost every year to raise the money to support these organizations.
Sure.
My editor Dan Barton at The Wire, and by the way, you can read listeners. You can read this whole list on the Wire, which is a what do you call it? Digital newspaper, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a digital newspaper. I find it. I'm a subscriber.
Yeah.
I find their information to be much more in depth than what I get from the Daily Rag, which has a tendency to do headlines and press releases, just regurgitating press releases. These folks at The Wire,
they ask good questions.
Oh, they ask good questions and they write good stories.
Yeah.
And they're always very in-depth. They really get into the issues. I would encourage anybody who wanted to give a Christmas gift to give a subscription to The Wire as a gift. I think it's terrific. I'm pretty hard on journalists, so
tell me about it.
I like this paper. I really like this paper. So I think it's about $50 for the year. I mean,
yeah, 50 or 55.
What they should have done with the $100,000. They should have given out 2,000
gift cards to The Wire.
Gift subscriptions to The Wire. People would have found out what the heck's going on around town.
One of the things about this list, which is actually central to it, is that there's a lot of people on there who are not in the paper, as you point out. They're not in the paper every other day. They're not putting out press releases. They're not, famous people. A lot of them are people I know. My barber's always in here. My dentist is in here. So some of the characters that I run into in my job.
Sure.
There's a roller rink. I don't know how to describe her. She's a roller rink person, and she competes in contests. And her name is her nom de skate, as she calls it, is Jane Bondage.
Jane Bondage.
And you would not want to bump into Jane. She's tough.
Whoa.
And so sometimes you combine things, like in this case, Stock and Len Bernardo's roller rink.
Yep.
Which has been up and down. That was supposed to be on the ballot. Bernardo wants to unload his roller rink.
I think the roller rink is actually unloaded.
Has it been? Because I think it was withdrawn. For some reason, they chose not to go to referendum with it. Maybe I'm going
No,
to
it's the new owners, I think, that want to turn it over to the town. The people who bought it from Len,
okay.
I believe, want to
have it as a town recreation site. Well, it could be the town hall. It's big.
It's going to be town offices and town rec center. They're going to take the. I believe they're going to leave the rink, and they're going to take the. There's a roller blade park or something. I think they're going to convert into town offices. It's a beautiful facility. Have you ever been in there?
Sure.
Yeah, I was there just a little before the comptroller, March Gallagher, showed up.
I was just thinking about that. That story has
trying to get a job because I understood they were underemployed.
Yeah,
March came in there and lied through her teeth.
That story has been rerun and respun. And I don't even know what the truth is anymore.
It's the epitome of Ulster County dirty politics. That's what that one was.
Just a couple of mothers looking for
looking for
a party site for their kids. Yeah, that's all it was.
How many people do you have working here? Because everybody walked in the place asked how many people they had working there.
Like 2, right?
They asked the kid who's popping the popcorn.
Who's taking tickets at the same time.
Yeah. He does more than one job, so he counted twice.
Multitasked young man.
But it was just, that was about as low as I've seen local politics get. But anyway, it worked, so that's good. How about How about Father Edmund Burke? You got groundbreaking at the Irish Cultural Center.
Father Burke is my priest, and I think he gives the best sermons. He's pithy, and he's to the
Down
point.
at St. Peter's in Rosendale, correct?
Yes.
He used to be at St. Mary's.
Yes, he was at St. Mary's.
Kingston.
And he's an Irishman, obviously with a name like Burke, and he was one of the driving forces behind this Irish Cultural Center, which is entering its 8th year now of development or non-development.
Well, Huey, they're only 15 years behind the group that's out in Shandaken trying to build a ski hotel. So, you got to be patient.
The bad news there for them, connecting dots here, Kat, the bad news for them is that Kathy Nolan, who was their arch enemy and held it up, almost personally, held that project up and fought tooth and nail in every court in the state. She's back as a county legislature, and she's reinvigorated.
You know what? The folks who elected her, she, I think, was a major recipient of the weekenders being allowed and encouraged to vote in Ulster County. Because when you speak to the locals, they actually want that project. That's jobs for them, their businesses, their employees. Everybody out there, the little guys, are going to benefit. But when there's this big movement on to get folks from New York City to re-register in Ulster County and vote in Ulster County, and most of them were weekenders, I think she was a major recipient because they are completely at odds with the locals. And I just don't see how local people out there would be against that. Whereas these folks who come up here, they want the pristine. They want and they don't and they really don't care if the guy living down the road in a trailer is making
or is driving in Kingston to make a living.
Yeah. So that's a shame, but they're screwed now. But so much money, so much wasted money there. How about Father Merrick at Immaculate Conception?
Father Merrick.
I didn't get this one. I know Father Merrick. I love Father Merrick, but elevator shoes?
Father Merrick is of average stature. It doesn't have to do with his height. It has to do with his biggest project is to put an elevator into the former Immaculate Conception School, and to open up that top floor, which is a gymnasium.
Oh, okay.
It's beautiful room. To open it up for church events and community events and all that.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and he's been raising money slowly for a couple of years now.
How is the school still? The school's not
No.
operating, right?
No.
Okay.
I think there's one Catholic school left. They're Catholic. What's it called? Catholic school across from St. Mary's.
Yeah, right. It used to be St. Mary's, but then they closed St. Joseph's and they closed Immaculate Conception. There's nothing.
Yeah.
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's had a school. Yeah.
What a shame. What a shame. So so that's that was the okay. I got it. Now I'm starting to get there. Paul O'Neill. That's pretty straightforward. Fair-minded jurors for the trial of the century.
Well, many a truth and jest. That's going to be, I think, a sensational trial, and I think both sides will be sharply questioning what they call voir dire when they examine jurors, when the lawyers on both sides. Which I like to cite sometimes when a verdict comes in, it's either surprising or unpopular or controversial, and I say, folks, the system works. The system is that each side gets to examine lawyers, and if one lawyer is better at it than the other one, and he gets a stacked jury on his side,
yeah, I think
too
we're
bad.
going going to see some serious lawyering going on.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's
we're
going to be
gonna see
great.
applause.
I think we're going to see the best theater since Mike Kavanaugh was the district attorney. Other uptown lawyers would take time off when Mike was summing up his case or even arguing a case. He
Yeah.
was.
I've been actually hoping that during the trial that there would be a major snowstorm.
Why is that? It's
Well,
probably in January, February.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a major snowstorm so that the sidewalks will be impassable.
Oh, stop it!
So that the people.
So the buses from Brooklyn can't come up here?
Yeah, so the people who want to convict him without any evidence, can stay home.
Hey, speaking of judges, there's some jest here.
Oh, yeah. Brothers of the Robe.
Brothers of the Robe, meaning judges.
Don Williams, Brian Rounds.
ex-county Republican judge, and Brian Rounds, who have had the current judge, Democrat, and who have had their issues with appellate courts, and we gave them rave reviews. The emphasis on rave because it was the judges who were raving afterward.
That was. And Daryl from Bren Automotive, most people.
Who I understand, Daryl claims you was a tax deduction for all the money you spent on your cars down there.
I have to send him a 1099.
Daryl sold me his wife's Mercedes, and it's an old one. I'm not rich enough like you are to have a modern Mercedes, but
I'm driving a 2013.
Yeah, you're barely getting by with it with an old car, and mine is a 06, but it's a beautiful car, and it was Daryl's wife's car.
That was a smart move, you.
One of my few this year, and believe me, it's.
Because he's a top-notch mechanic.
He's the best.
Guarantee that his wife's car
was humming. That
yes,
thing hummed.
Absolutely.
I have to check the. I have to check when it's running because it doesn't make a sound.
Oh man.
So if he does come across another one, I'm pretty happy with what I got.
So here's another nice Mercedes for you know who. Okay, that would be you. So Ryan Reynolds made the list this year at 10 points per game.
My boy, he hasn't. He hasn't scored 10 yet, but he did score 10 twice. This kid, my grandson, who lives in Glenmont, he's on the varsity basketball team, and he and his father, since birth, I think his father put a basketball in his hands when he was born, and they've had this dream of this kid playing varsity basketball, and it's here. He's a senior, and they lost their whole season last year. That was devastating. I mean, you only get one junior season, and it's touch and go this year with different restrictions and changes in schedules and the limiting the number of people who can attend a game and all that. And he was when I wrote this about 2 weeks ago, he was pretty much riding the pines for most of the games that I went to, which was severely disappointing. But then he broke out, and he's a good ball player. I mean, I like to think I'm a judge. I watched his father play at Kingston High School, and I like I played basketball in high school too. And his father says he's much better than Robbie was. Which Robbie was the 6th or 7th man. Do you want to bring the Cahill brothers in on Christmas Eve?
Oh yeah, what's that all about?
Well, the Cahill brothers are, there's a lot of them. I think there were 10 Cahills, and there's now 9 now. I think one of the brothers died. But they like we all do as we get older, we struggle a bit with weight issues. And Kevin can go up and down. Kevin can lose the weight as fast as he gains it. And then Brian too. And they're currently on the upswing, the both of them. And as brothers, I know they kid each other a lot about who's got the bigger belly, or in this case, the bigger pants.
So, just very quickly, this is the Friday Mario and Me show on WGHQ, Kingston Community Radio. Our number is 331-9255. We're getting tired of hearing each other. We would love to hear from anybody out there in Radio Land.
To a point.
All right. Anyway.
Here's a good one. In one of my several year-end boo-boos, I omitted Jim Satile as an ex-mayor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Jim politely informed me, as did many of my readers.
All righty. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. Happy holidays to you both. I'm immensely enjoying the show thus far. And as always, but Mr. Reynolds, your Christmas column is something that I look forward to every year. And I think it really speaks volumes to the importance of local journalists covering our local community, because you truly know the people. And boy, does this show it in such a wonderful way. That's my comment. So I want to thank you for that. And now I have a question for both of you. In the name of local journalists and the importance of that, I wanted to ask you your thoughts on social media and the way that it now covers and can impact our politics. And what I mean is that any Yahoo can write something and
Hey, wait a minute, caller. I have a blog. Did you call me a Yahoo?
No, well, you are a true Yahoo. You're a true journalist.
I'm a professional Yahoo. Thank you.
But anyone can write anything they'd like, be it true or false, and with one click, it can just take off. And unfortunately, everyday folks can't always decipher between the fact, the fiction, the true journalists, and coverage versus someone just putting things out there. So here's my question for you. Do you have any thoughts or comments on the impact, potential impact of social media in this way, the way that it covers our politics, and maybe your thoughts on really the importance of local journalism? I think we need them now more than ever, and just wanted to ask your thoughts on this. Thank you, and happy holidays.
Well, thank you, caller, and happy holiday to you. We could probably do the next 3 hours if Maxwell would hang around long enough to keep us on the air on this particular subject. It's vast. One of the things that the founding fathers feared was what they called the mob. They were very concerned about that, that the so-called mob, the emotional, swayed by any issue, would just in any case. Here's an example of I'm kind of forming my thoughts here, but the role that responsible journalism has played is it's a kind of gatekeeper. There are people, when I worked at in the old days, as it is now, and other newspapers, these were veteran journalists who in many cases had come up through the ranks. Had been reporters, had been on the street, had covered the news live, and then the more talented ones became editors, and they knew their communities and they knew the issues, and to get through even for reporters to get past these editors, if you filed a story that was the least bit kind of suspicious or wasn't really vetted, wasn't really researched, an editor would literally hand it back to you and say, "Go back and check this out." And that's not there. This is wide open. It is, in a sense, a form of pure democracy. Anybody can get their name in a paper, as it were. They can just file it, and whether it's true or not, there's other people who going to buy into it. Mario, I'll let you have a word on this, but I want to bring this up. One of the ongoing stories now in connection with the COVID is that there are people who are anti-vaxxers who wind up getting COVID. And if they're public officials, they could be a governor. I think there's cases, members of Congress, etc. Prominent people who are against vaccines or / mandates, they get COVID, and so that becomes a big story. Well, a couple of weeks ago, when Governor Hochul issued, I think it was on a Friday, 2 weeks ago, Governor Hochul issued a mandate requiring masks indoors and coming with $1,000 fines they could impose. I doubt if anybody's going to pay the fines. In any case, the Dutchess County executive, a man named Molinaro, who was also running for Congress in our district, issued a statement that he would not enforce the mandate because his sheriff's department was already up to its neck in work. He didn't have the manpower, and the state was not providing any resources for them to go around and to gatherings and arrest people who didn't have masks on, etc. That story, which was legitimate enough, whether you agreed or disagreed with Molinaro's position, and I think the other 3 counties surrounding Ulster County also took the position, a similar position. Somebody put up on the web that Molinaro had contacted COVID, and so that became a story. And it's one thing to put it in a newspaper, which you might find 50,000 readers. If you put it out on the web, you could have 1 million clicks on that story in a minute. And Molinaro went a little nuts about it. He accused the Democrats of lying about him and so forth. So there is that. So, they used to say you can't believe everything you read in a newspaper. Well, from experience, you can believe most of more than most. You can believe what the newspapers put out in days gone by. You could believe most of it. It wasn't anybody had access. Now, even letters to the editor were also vetted, which is the writer's personal opinion, which is essentially what goes out on the blog. It is what it is. It's going to be what it is going forward. And caller, I don't have an answer. I try to make everything I put out there as accurate as possible. I make mistakes. Sometimes people comment on it. Sometimes people pass it on. It's the times that we live in. Mario?
Yeah, caller. Essentially, what you're asking is a really good question because Congress and our leaders have been asking the same questions, and that is, who controls content? And evidently, part of the problem is that a lot of the social media sites do not have the ability to verify content. So, as a consequence, it's become a weapon. In the last 2 national elections, stories were leaked. Just the whole Russian hoax deal went out all over the internet without anybody ever verifying any of it. And they tried to, impact the Trump campaign by doing that. There were stories that were leaked about Biden in the last election that were unverified. It's the problem that we have right now is too much control by social media, too much information being disseminated without being verified. And the second problem is that some of the print media, the people that we used to respect, and the TV journalists, the Walter Cronkites of the world, they're gone. Exhibit A is MSNBC, which is, a disaster in my opinion, of a TV station, because all they do is repeat stories. They don't investigate. They don't seem to investigate anything. They have a complete bias, and that's the problem. The problem that we have in the country right now is, yeah, you're right. The average Joe out there doesn't spend a lot of time. They put on a station, they listen to something, and they take it as being the gospel truth. And in many cases, it's completely biased news. And we have that locally as well, by the way. Even our formerly esteemed local newspaper has a bias. So, it's hard. It's very difficult. And people respond sometimes when they can't have an impact on print journalism. They go online and they give their opinions. But it should always, anybody listening, anybody reading these things should always understand that these are mostly opinion pieces. Very seldom are they well thought out journalistically written pieces of good information. Very seldom. I'll give the Wall Street Journal a plug. They're one newspaper that seems to really stay above the fray and give you straight content. But New York Times is getting embarrassing. Washington Post is not much better.
How about the New York Post, if you want some slanted news?
Well, New York Post goes the other way.
Yeah.
The New York Post is, very oriented and conservative. What I like about the New York Post is the sports. I think they have the best sports columnists in the country, bar none. Their sports coverage is. I like their columnists, even though they're all coming from the same direction. They're columnists. They're identified as columnists. This is their opinion. Yeah.
And they have a story to tell. I don't want to read a front page news story that is somebody's opinion.
Yeah, somebody's opinion. Exactly.
If I want opinions, I'll go to the editorial page and read those, or I'll read columnists. But what you get is a narrative, and anything that doesn't feed the narrative on either side, left or right, is excluded. So not only are you getting propaganda,
mm-hmm.
but you're not getting all the facts of a situation.
Yeah.
I know I was taught, even as a column writer, I was taught actually in high school. My high school teacher, for my I think it was world history essay, she said I was only good at a few things in high school, and in history and English were my fortes, and she said to me, you should really. She said you should get 100% on this Regents. She says, you know this stuff as well as I do. She says, but you're a little weak in essay writing. Well, I was 17, and I hadn't written anything like that, and so she gave me a formula which I used with all my columns, and certainly with the Freeman editorials that I wrote, is that would lay out the proposition. This is the controversy. This is what one side says. This is what the other side says. This is an editorial, and this is what we think, and this is why we think so. And the reader would get. They may not agree. They don't have to agree, but the reader would have a real, I think, a good understanding of the issue. And then the reader would talk to his friends or his wife or his spouse, would have a good understanding. It wouldn't be like, this is what we think, and you go right down the left side or right down the right side, and in the end, the reader is not well informed.
Yeah, I hear you. So we should mention that we have Supervisor Quigley coming in for the second hour. We're going to talk about this Tech City situation, and I think we're going to entertain some questions, hopefully, from the listeners about this project. He seems to be pretty well informed about what's going on, And that's a real big that's a real big deal. So
I think one of Quigley's strengths, we could say it in front of him, but one of Quigley's strengths, he's often rightfully cited for his financial acumen, but the other is, as you just said, he's probably pretty well informed about this. I don't think a car moves in the town of Ulster that he's not pretty well informed about it. He's on top of stuff out there.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of supervisors who just kind of mail it in. They show up for town board meetings.
Yeah, and I one of the things that there was a very nice article in the Wire this week about March Gallagher, who's concerned about the Tech City transfer. She's not sure that it was done according to script, according to the state law. So that's very interesting. I want to get his perspective on that because, so here's the deal. I think we all agree, you and I at least agree, that March has aspirations moving up into the
executive suite
office. Yeah. And so along comes Ryan. This is probably the coup de grace of Ryan's first 2 years in office, whatever, how many years, I don't even know how long he's been around, but yeah.
3 years. 3 years, actually.
3 years, and, he pulls off this thing that his predecessor, watched happen. He comes along and makes it happen. He, apparently there's some movement here. We got a quality developer, this and that. Well, she can't let that go because you have to, how do I get some press out of this? Because all of a sudden, Ryan owns the local press, and that's all they want to talk about. So she drops a bomb. It was very interesting. The Freeman didn't even cover it. The Wire did, but the Freeman didn't even cover it.
They had a couple of paragraphs from her where she really she pulled her punches, as it were. She expressed concern, to use the word, about the process that has brought us to this point.
Yeah.
And she expects that if it is successful, that people will roll their eyes, as she put it in the Freeman piece. It was buried in the back of the story.
Yeah.
So she basically PYA or is it CYA covered herself.
Yeah, and what she's saying is that it was supposed to and should have been assessed before it was sold to this new company.
Ginsburg has been suing everybody in sight for the last 20 years, and this place has been assessed and overassessed and sworn testimony in court. I think they have a pretty good idea what it's worth.
And she wants to know what's going to happen if the assessment, when they finally do it. They're going to do it during the 90-day quiet period when the transactions being formulated, and she wants to know what's going to happen if the assessment is higher than the purchase price, and did the Ulster County citizens get screwed? I say that we would have made out giving them the property, because
like we gave it to Ginsburg.
You got to get it back on the tax rolls, and whatever we get out of there, we weren't getting from Ginsburg. He owed the county $12 million in back taxes,
which we ate.
Well, the county ate it. The town.
We're the county.
Yeah, I know. What I'm saying is, just anything has got to be better than Ginsburg. I mean, this is just anything but Ginsburg should be the. ABG, that'll be the new symbol.
Kat, that's a pretty low standard, to launch from.
Anything but Ginsburg. Very interestingly, when my brother-in-law was assemblyman, he was the assemblyman, John Guerin, during this transition period, and he absolutely warned Ulster County. You can go back in the archives of the Freeman. He was dead set against letting this guy Ginsburg get this property because of his reputation south of here. Somehow he had managed to do some investigative reporting, which nobody else seemed to do, and they were all hailing Ginsburg as, as some sort of a white knight. And my brother-in-law, to his credit, John, was like, this guy is a black knight. This is not going to work. This is really bad stuff here. And he's not a quality guy, and they wouldn't listen, because everybody was sure that Ginsburg was going to turn this into the next IBM, and guess who was right?
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes to break.
Okay, what do we got? We got a call. Okay, good morning, caller.
Good morning. On your last show, I had asked a question, and I haven't heard any rebuttal on it, and that was whether or not the recreation area of the IBM property is also a part of this deal. If you remember, the IBM Rec Center.
Well, yes, we heard that, and Speaker, we have the town supervisor on.
Yeah.
At 8:05,
I thought maybe you guys could approach that question.
We are gonna. That's going to be the first question we're going to ask.
All right. The other question is, or not really a question, is that since the ribbon cutting and the Ryan had the podium set up, I have noticed that the aspect of Bosie's being one of the people taking quite a large footprint out of that deal is now obviously missing from the Daily Shed and everything. There's like no mention that Bosie's is going to be even a tenant out there. And my question going back was that Bosie's approached all the school districts and was going to look for money to start a renovation over at the Port Ewan Center. And all of a sudden now that's disappeared, like the cat's out of the bag. So that was the other question. So I'll let you guys continue and break.
Let me just clarify what you're asking. Did you say that Bosie's has stopped construction at the site in Port Ewan?
No, not stopped construction, but they had polled the local school boards here, and Kingston had voted on it. They're looking for a major renovation over at the Port Ewan site.
Ah, okay.
And my question was, if they're going to eventually here move out to Tech City, or I-84 now, whatever it's called, is that are the taxpayers going to be paying for this renovation in Port Ewan, and then they're going to vacate the building if this is the plan, somebody else paying my renovation.
Sure. Kind of like.
Okay, that was my other question.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that it's been obviously you don't hear anything about Bosie's now.
Got it.
When they had the ribbon cutting, they were one of the largest organizations that was going to take a piece of the action out there.
Yep. All right. So
I forgot it was something like 74,000 square feet or something. They were looking at moving into.
Huge. Well, you know what? Okay. I'm not sure that we're gonna be able to get to that answer, but we will ask. We're gonna ask, and we know the man who might have the answers. He's
sitting in the lobby.
Yep.
He's the man. The only thing is that I got to do. Maybe you can give him a little pop in the back of the head and get him to move back in the city of Kingston.
Thanks for that.
He's a neighborhood man. I've approached him personally and asked him. We go way back. We go back as kids, and I asked him to move in the city, and he just laughed at me. But he's going to be a big miss for out there in town of Ulster. Like you said, he watches the numbers. The guy knows what's going on. It's going to be interesting. Listen to him. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. How are we doing? Anyway, all right, so we got our work cut out for us.
Give the number out once in a while.
One more call and then we got to go to break.
Okay, quick call. We're going to go to break in a minute. Hello, good morning, caller. Merry Christmas.
Hey, good morning. Merry Christmas. Hey, I have a very quick thing before you go to break. So I really appreciated your episode the other week when you were breaking down all the things that people weren't realizing about Tech City. Another one is that Getty from the Kingston Times, he reported that there was an email from the developer where they're predicting that 50% of the jobs created, everyone says 1,000 jobs are going to be created.
Yes.
But 50% of those are going to be minimum wage.
Uh-oh.
And what I don't understand is, we can't fill the minimum wage jobs we have now. People can't live on that here. So where are these 500 people going to live who are going to make minimum wage at this plant? And why are we going to give a pilot to create minimum wage jobs that people can't live on? That's all. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you for the call. Okay, Lawrence, take it away.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed, support causes that matter, change lives, change communities, change the world. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a teen practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, folks.
Save
we're
that
back,
line about Phil for the
and
broadcast.
it's that time of the day where we do birthdays. So, we have some special birthdays because, folks, there were a number of birthdays of people that were born on Christmas Eve. How exciting is that? So
I think they get chipped.
Let's
No question.
Let's
No question.
let's see who we've got today. So we've got a happy birthday to Carol Mazzone. Love from Marianne and William Banks Jr. Happy birthday, Carol. Then we are so grateful to send happy birthday greetings to Phyllis Rosner on her 83rd birthday. God, Phyllis, happy 83rd. We love you very much from your daughters, Linda and Rhonda. We love KCR's program as well as ice cream cow pies. We wish everyone a wonderful year always. Thank you so much, Linda and Rhonda, and congratulations to Phyllis on her 83rd. We have Joe Eschman this morning, who has a birthday, and she's getting greetings from her friends at People's Place. We hope you enjoy your special day. Happy birthday, Joe. And People's Place, very busy today because Toby Gabriello also has a birthday, and the People's Place folks hope she has a special day. And then we have the winner of the famous Boy's Dairy Milk House cow pie for today, December 24th, and it's Phyllis Rosna. Happy birthday again, Phyllis. You may pick up your famous cow pie at the Boy's Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston. And that comes to you courtesy of the Boy's Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. And I just want to add a plug here that we're going to whip out one of our cow pies that are frozen for Christmas dinner tomorrow. Anyway, and now we have Christmas Day. And we have one birthday on Christmas Day, and the birthday is for John Quick, who is celebrating his 75th birthday tomorrow. So please wish my husband, John Quick, a very happy 75th birthday. Love, Ruth. Also love and best wishes from your grandchildren, Wilson and Caroline. John, you are blessed. And a happy birthday and Merry Christmas to John Quick tomorrow. And as our only entry, John is the official winner of the Boy's Dairy Milk House famous cow pie for tomorrow. Happy birthday, John. And I have an announcement. To make because we've got a big event coming up, and we want to get that on the news. So, this is to all Legionnaires, auxiliary sons, Legion riders, and spouses. You are all cordially invited to attend the Ulster County American Legion State Commander's Visitation Dinner, honoring Frank LaMarche on Friday, January 14th, 2022 at Rosendale's Tilson Post, Tilson, New York. The social hour will be 5 to 6 p.m. Dinner will be at 6 p.m. Tickets are $35. There's a cash bar. Dinner is a buffet. And please call 845-901-5196 before December 31st to reserve a dinner space. Again, that's 845-901-5196, and you can be present at the state visitation. Huey, you and I are Legionnaires, but I don't think I'm going to be in town, so you're going to have to represent us.
I'll fill in for you, Ken.
And then we have...
You get them to pay for you, too?
And then we have a press release from the Saugerties Sports Hall of Fame. They're having an induction banquet. So after a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic, the Saugerties Sports Hall of Fame will resume their tradition of honoring those who have made a significant impact on Saugerties sports history. As the Sports Hall of Fame enters its 59th year of existence, in 2022, the induction banquet will take place on Saturday, April 9th. Doors open at 5 with a cocktail and greeting hour from 5:30 to 6:30, followed by dinner and induction at 6:30 p.m. at the Diamond Mills in Saugerties. Our 2022 inductees from 2 years ago include Pat Caffrey, Jay Dodig, Mark Herb, along with Steve Einer Martin and Jimmy Spears. All are invited to come out and celebrate the achievements of this year's inductees. Tickets for the April 9th banquet are available by contacting Mike Hassenball at 914-388-2348. Let me repeat that, 914-388-2348, or Mike Hassenball at yahoo.com. Anyway, and that comes to us from Greg Chorvis. Well, that sounds like a rockin' event. So we've got all our announcements out of the way, and yet, folks, as we told you earlier, we're here, and our guest this morning, our last show of the year, UE. So we brought back one of our favorite guests, if not our favorite, Jim Quigley, the town supervisor. By way of full disclosure, I live in the town of Supervisor. So, I live in the town of Ulster, and my wife went to school with the supervisor. I don't know what happened. I think she slept through a few of the classes, but he has never revealed the true story about what happened at Coleman High School that year. Anyway, James, good morning and Merry Christmas to you and your family and the town board. And before we get to the questions, I want to say one thing. I pulled out of my driveway this morning onto a street that was pavement. I went down my hill and it was sanded. And I drove all the way to the town line, and I was on clean streets. And I hit the city of Kingston, and it was nothing but a sheet of ice coming down Miller's Lane all the way to Lucas Avenue. Lucas Avenue wasn't even plowed, which is a main thoroughfare, wasn't sanded, wasn't plowed. And all I'm going to say about the town board and Frank Petromal, our town superintendent, is this is why I firmly believe that your town highway superintendent or public works superintendent should be elected and not appointed. And this is, the city of Kingston, town of Ulster line, is Exhibit A in my belief.
Well, I think, first of all, in today's environment, there are a whole lot of different factors that are affecting the productivity of our employees, and I think the town board's substantial support for the highway department in the town of Ulster. That includes ordering trucks a year and a half before they're needed because of the fact that that's what the current production schedule is.
Wow.
And the fact that every time we sit down, the first question is, what do you need? From the supervisor to the highway superintendent, and I think it goes a long way that we work in partnerships with the highway department, the highway superintendent, and the employees of the town of Ulster. I passed on the way in Billy Williams, who's making his rounds this morning for the water department at 7 o'clock here. I know he finished up late last night because there was a water main break on Old Neighborhood Road right in front of Jimmy Winchell's house down there at the end, past Fowler Technologies. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty bad one. They got in a hole, and when they got down to the pipe, it was covered with blacktop. So in 1956, the construction inspector must have been out on a lunch break when they backfilled that hole because they threw all the blacktop from the road right on top of the water line. So, oh my God. And we find this stuff all over the place. So, I mean, this is an indication that this has been going on forever with government. We try to do things the right way the first time. And that hole was backfilled with clean materials from the highway garage because that is our process, and that's how we do things in the town of Ulster.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, Frank, and thank you guys in the highway department for coming in this morning.
It was great. And Frank, I've lived in the town of Ulster for 50 years, and I think Frank's probably the best highway superintendent I've
had the experience.
And he's recognized by his peers throughout the county, because we sit there and we talk as the president of the Supervisors Association. I get to talk to all the supervisors about their relationships with their highway superintendents, and I know his name is bantered about in the Supervisors Association as much as it is bantered about in the Highway Superintendents Association. He's well respected by his peers. They always call him for help. In fact, there was an accident the other day with another municipality's truck, and the town of Ulster was called for assistance. So we are, first and foremost, I will say, the best highway department in the town.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for all you guys do, and I certainly appreciate this highways. They're just the best. Anyway, we've had a caller call twice now, and the big question is, before we get to the Tech City situation, this caller would like to know the disposition of the IBM, would they have a club or a country club or something?
On Cuckoo Lane.
Yeah.
Back in the, I guess, the late 50s, early 60s, IBM bought a large tract, which they developed as a recreation center for their employees. They had softball fields, they had tennis courts, they had the pool complex. When IBM left town in the 90s, they sold that entire parcel to an individual by the name of Travis Rothline. My condolences go out to the Rothline family. As I understand, Travis has passed away recently. He eventually sold that property to Scenic Hudson. Scenic Hudson went into the site and eradicated all remains of human habitation. They took out everything that IBM had ever put it in to restore the land to its natural state, and that's where it stands today.
Is it a park or anything, or?
It's forever wild.
But is it accessible to the community?
There's no trespassing signs posted on the border.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Okay, and
has the town ever thought about approaching them about making it the hiking trails, or?
Scenic Hudson has constantly approached the town about the town making its vacant land hiking trails and offering assistance, but it's never gone in the opposite direction. I think if you look at the tax map database throughout the counties in the Hudson Valley, you will find out that Scenic Hudson is one of the largest landowners in the Hudson Valley. And if you look at the parcels that they own, you will understand that they are forever green. They will never be touched by human hands. Whether they're opened up for recreation, that's a matter of their board of directors making a decision to do. And we've had discussions, and we've offered up an idea that the town would be interested in sponsoring a municipal-based solar farm on 20 acres or so off of Cuckoo Lane. We're still waiting for answers to that question.
Okay, so they're not really strong in the alternative energy department.
This was an initial concept. It was a novel concept. It was the first time it was opened up to them. You know, they are the owners of a large area throughout the Hudson Valley, and they are very supportive of solar energy. I think the questions came about within their own organization is what can we do to foster the growth of it. And as one of the largest owners of parcels that are appropriate sites for solar energy, I think they have a responsibility of giving it serious consideration.
And they don't pay any taxes, correct?
They pay no taxes.
They pay no taxes. Well,
every time they buy something, they take it off the tax roll. And in fact, they did create a problem for the town when they bought that, because they took 2% of the tax roll, 2% of the value off the tax roll in the East Kingston Fire District.
Oh, wow.
And then when we took another hit when the Hudson Landing project was sold to Scenic Hudson as an intermediary for the state of New York to turn it into the Quarry Waters State Park that is going to be coming about here in the next year or so.
Wow.
So we continue to get our tax base diminished all over the place from all sorts of, and it's not just Scenic Hudson, it's Woodstock Land Trust. They're buying properties on the western edge of the town that are adjacent to Saugerties and Woodstock's borders. and they're seeking to take them off to the tax rolls.
Wow. And they require services. I mean, if there's a problem there, they're gonna require that fire department to go out there and fix it. Yet they don't even pay like a pilot or anything, nothing.
No pilot. They have made voluntary, Scenic Hudson has made voluntary contributions to the town to be passed through to the fire districts.
Well, that's nice to hear. Okay, so tell us, you got anything there huge?
No, go ahead.
I feel like I'm getting set up here.
So do you do you have any thoughts on this this Tech City takeover? What's good about it? What's bad about it? And what's still up in the air?
Well, I hear everybody asking, is it a good deal? And they're asking a very simple question to a very complicated problem. I don't look at it as a good or a bad deal. I look at it as, do we have the optimum results based upon the situation of where we are today? So let's look at where we are today. We have a property owner who came to town with great promise. He didn't keep his promises. He came to a point where, to avoid continuing the tax search, he decided he wanted to tear the buildings down. In the process of tearing the buildings down, they didn't follow the rules. They created surface contamination where there previously was no surface contamination, and they continued not to pay their taxes, including taxes on parcels that they fought tax certiorari actions over and were successful in having the values reduced. So you're sitting here, you have a contaminated surface site, contaminated by the actions of the owner. You have delinquent taxes. And in 2017, when Donald Trump took office and named Pete Lopez the head of Region 2, I made contact with the EPA and started conversations for enforcement actions, which, as you can see, ultimately resulted in a consent decree essentially being signed between Ginsburg and the EPA, where he promised to take certain actions to complete the cleanups, which in 2 years were not taken. So as that clock ticked away, the EPA sat there and said, we're not standing still. And they undertook in 2020, I believe it was, between $500,000 and $600,000 in remediation costs on their own to secure the areas around Building 1, and they then liened the property for recovery of those expenses. In 2021, they went to Washington, and they were granted permission by the powers of in Washington and the funding to conduct a $12 million cleanup on that site. Now, what would that do? What would be the outcome if this transaction did not go through with National Resources? The EPA would come in, they would clean up the site for $12 million, and under the statutes, they have first recovery on the value of the asset being liquidated to reimburse themselves for the expenses that they incurred in cleaning it up. Now remember, they estimated it's $12 million to clean it up. That's what they got agreement from Washington to fund, and they were already out $500,000 to $600,000, which they have a lien document for. So if at the end of the day, they finished up their cleanup and then they went to liquidate the assets to recover their expenses, would they get their $12 million back? And if they did, what does that mean for the $10 million that was owed to the county for unpaid taxes?
Yeah.
So in other words, they would get their 12, if you look at the value that's being talked about in today's transaction where it's $12 million.
Yeah.
Had the EPA cleaned it up, they would have been reimbursed and the county would have been out $10 million. And the property would have been sold to satisfy the obligations of the EPA.
Got it.
So where are we today? We are here today where we have a developer who has experience in this realm, who has agreed to pay the county $12 million, of which $7 million will be for environmental cleanup costs, and $5 million will be for reimbursement of taxes that are in arrears, which currently estimated about $10 million. So it's a 50% recovery to the county. The first demonstrated example was zero recovery to the county.
Yeah.
Now you're talking 50 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
Now, the question comes about is, why did the EPA develop a $12 million cost and the developers only at a $7 million cost? I've been asked that. We all know the pricing for government contracts.
Yeah.
It costs more.
Sure.
And in addition, Building 1, which was the site of the aborted asbestos remediation.
And building 1 is the clock building?
No, it's the building behind the clock building. This is the site where they had the errant asbestos cleanup,
Yeah.
which resulted in criminal convictions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The EPA looked at that and they said that the most efficient way to clean it up was to demolish the entire building with the asbestos in it. Therefore, the entire debris pile resulting from that would have to be demolished or disposed of as contaminated waste. Well, the developer comes in and says, no, that is a functioning structure. I'm going to finish the asbestos remediation and renovate the building and rent it out. So therefore, he reduced the EPA's estimate from 12 million down to X.
Right.
When he looks at the other piles, he's going through his math. I'm going to use so-and-so as a contractor as opposed to so-and-so that the government was going to use.
Sure.
There's a cost differential in there. Is it reasonable for that it's $5 million? Doesn't matter. He is signing an agreement when he buys this with the EPA that he will clean it up to their satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So he's going to clean it up to their satisfaction, and it's going to be on his dime. So I look at it as a relative range of outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, I have been recently informed that Ginsburg is getting some money. So it's not just $12 million being paid to the county. It's $12 million plus some monies that are being paid to Ginsburg, because Ginsburg still owes the EPA $500,000 to $600,000 for the lien. And there are other liens on the property that have to be cleaned up, and there are other expenses that have to be disposed of. So we're looking at probably a transaction value, $15, $16, $17 million
Wow.
in total, with all the cash being accounted for in the transfer of title.
What happens to the property that was previously sold to the warehousing company down by the railroad tracks?
That property remains in the possession of the people who bought it. They are subject to the restrictive covenants and easements that encumber the entire parcel. Because if you remember, I don't think you were on the planning board in '96. I know you were on the planning board at one point. In '96, the Town of Ulster Planning Board subdivided a single parcel owned by IBM into 27 separate parcels.
Okay.
Each parcel, with the exception of the Bank of America building, represented a single building. So the subdivision was to the building line. And the resulting 95 acres on the East Campus, which were the parking lots, green fields, and everything else, became known as the Common Area Master Parcel. And when that subdivision was completed, all the assessed value was laid into or applied to or allocated to the buildings, which resulted in 5 or 6 tax certiorari actions over the 25 years. In 2016, the town lost the final tax certiorari action due to an appellate court decision, where we ended up paying Mr. Ginsburg $500,000 in refunds from the town taxes, and we had a liability of almost another $1 million if he had paid taxes on the buildings that he stopped paying taxes on. We can only refund taxes when the taxes are paid. So if they're not paid, we don't have to refund it. Fast forward, he finishes the demolition. The restrictive covenants set forth the fact that that master parcel is to provide parking to buildings that were on the site. Well, he just demolished the buildings. Therefore, they didn't need the parking. Therefore, the 95 acres is no longer worth zero. In 2017, we assessed the 95 acres for $4.7 million. He didn't pay the taxes on that. And that ended up being, after 3 years, the reason that the county had a successful foreclosure against the East Campus, because they were foreclosing against the entire campus, not just the buildings that had the value on it. Now, there was a tax certiorari court case heard in front of Judge Cahill in October of 2020 over the valuation of the 95 acres. And Mr. Ginsburg said we overassessed him and that we were not right in assessing him for a single dollar, let alone what we did, because it was still common area. Well, in a court decision that was released by Judge Cahill last week on the 21st, Judge Cahill agreed that the town's position was reasonable, that our valuation was reasonable, and he allowed the assessment to stand, and therefore the delinquent taxes that had not been paid remained outstanding.
Wow.
And then the county eventually forecloses.
This is, wow.
It's a three-dimensional chess game.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So, to your knowledge, what's going to happen with that property? Do you have any inside info or suggestions that you could throw out here and to the people who are listening about what we might be looking at in the future?
I understand this is a dynamic situation. It is going to ebb and flow based upon what the market, and by that I mean the real estate market, tells us they want, okay? I have always held out that that was an ideal site for a major distribution center. Amazon, whatever. And over the years, we've had various levels of interest that were never capable of coming to any fruition for a distribution type facility. I know that I have articulated in the press that I did not want to see housing on that site. And the developer, in his first statement, made a statement that he would like to integrate a village-like concept with small tenant, commercial, and workforce housing on the site. Understanding that the town's government's role is not to be obstructive, I took advantage of his announcement and proposed to the town board that we double the impact fee for housing units from $1,500 to $3,000 2 meetings ago. Yes, yesterday when he was in my office and we talked about workforce housing, I basically said, look, I'm not going to stand in your way. I am transactional. And by the way, I increased your impact fee from $1,500 to $3,000 a unit. He just smiled. There's a price. If you want something,
yeah,
there's a price for it. And at the end of the day, I figure he will propose somewhere near 150 workforce unit housing units in along the Boyces Lane area. And that will generate for the town approximately $450,000 in income to be used for our recreation facilities.
Does the town have any designs on any of that property? Do you have any thoughts, or has there any consideration been given to using any part of that property?
When the county foreclosed on the Bank of America building, that foreclosure included a vacant 57-acre parcel that was at the end of Old Boyces Lane Extension. That was the proposed site for the Niagara bottling plant in 2013, 2014. I immediately notified the county executive that the town had an interest in that 57-acre parcel for several reasons. The first reason is it sits right next to the Ulster wastewater treatment plant, the largest electrical consumer in the town, and would be an appropriate location for a 20-acre solar farm, which would be to our advantage because we could feed the sewer plant directly. In addition, there are a number of soccer fields on Boyce's Lane that are used by the community. It's a matter of time before that land is redeveloped. And what we proposed to the county was to put soccer fields adjacent to the solar field. That left a 3-acre parcel or so, and I just penciled in a conceptual, this is a location for a future town hall. Now, we have gone through 2 rounds of solicitation by UCEDA from interest in the community for this parcel. The town has submitted twice. We've submitted a schematic to them. We still don't have an answer from the county as to what they want to do with that 57 acres. They are in conversations with National Resources, for National Resources to take over in some form of commercial transaction, and I can't tell you what it is because I don't know, the Bank of America building and the 57 acres. In yesterday's meeting with Mr. Cotter from National Resources, I laid out for him the town's plan. And I said to him, this is what we'd like to do, and this is why we'd like to do it. You're going to redevelop Boyce's Lane's land area. You're going to be removing the soccer fields. This is an appropriate location to replace them. Yeah, I'm sorry, 2 days ago I had that meeting. Yesterday morning he told me he agreed with me and he was going to work to the town to put together some type of transaction where the town could get title to the lands that we've expressed an interest in. I told him right off the bat, from a commercial point of view, it doesn't make sense for me to put a town hall there, the town of Ulster to put a town hall there. I'm not going to advocate that. First of all, I'm not going to advocate to the town of Ulster taxpayers to go into debt for $15 million to build a new building. That is not in the current financial condition with a decreasing tax roll from an assessment-based perspective. I'm not going to recommend that. That's wrong. It's financially irresponsible. So we want to see, as we go about the redevelopment of Tech City and the Hudson Valley Mall, because we do have 2 distressed properties, how this plays out and how the tax base in the town of Ulster is restored to a level that will give us the abilities to adequately finance our future home. Now, when Glide Path negotiated to put the battery storage facility on Frank Satile Boulevard, they have ownership interests in some land that is in front of the town of Ulster transfer station. We told them that as a condition of their approvals, they had to transfer to the town this small, unusable portion of land to the town. And we will combine it with the transfer station property that we have up there. It is high on a hill outside the floodplain adjacent to existing town facilities. And I believe this would be an adequate location to put a new town hall.
Oh, okay. What do you think?
It's a very interesting town of Ulster story. Can we revisit something that came out in the initial announcement of this so-called IBM project? What's with Ulster BOCES being relocated to that site? What do you know about that?
I know what I read in the paper, that Ulster BOCES has a need for space. I know from being a member of the committee that was advising UCEDA on the West campus that they had expressed an interest, and that is the extent. I know they're in the market. I know they're looking for the right facilities. The question that everybody should be asking them is it the optimum outcome to force them into a 400,000 square foot multi-floor office building that was constructed for an industrial company as a means of cheaply satisfying their needs? Is that the right long-term decision? That's not a question that I can answer.
But I understand at the same time that BOCES is soliciting support from its various members, 7 or 8 school districts, including Kingston, for funding to expand on their present site.
That was the only thing I know is what was reported in the Freeman, and yes, I understand that. They're looking to do a construction project in the town of Esopus to expand their existing facilities.
Well, which is it then? Are they moving to some vacant 400,000 square foot building, and they're taking money from the school districts to renovate? I suppose we should have the BOCES guy here, maybe our first.
Yeah. Let's okay.
So let me ask you a question. When you play blackjack, does your opinion of what your hand is change when they turn the next card up? That's what we're essentially sitting here talking about. This is a game of different options being revealed at different points as the table changes. The cards on the table are changing. I know that the private developer who is interested in redeveloping Tech City will talk to any and every entity, including BOCES, including Ulster County Community College, including Bard College. He's going to talk to everybody and their brother to try to generate a cash flow from a lease on that parcel. That's the only way.
So is this potentially a addition by subtraction operation, where you're taking BOCES out of Port Huron, leaving a gigantic hole? It's the biggest building in the town of Esopus, empty. Or you're taking Bard College is coming over here, or SUNY. So it isn't adding to the base.
You're talking about the creation of new facilities that supplements or expands existing operations.
Well, let me make a suggestion.
I don't see the expansion. I see transfers.
Well, that may very well be true, but as you adequately described, you're going to have to get the people from BOCES in here to answer the questions as to where's BOCES going.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so Ulster County, since I've lived here, has talked about having housing at Ulster Community College. Even when I was on the legislature, we talked about it, but there was no water out there.
There's water now.
There's water now, and are you aware of any consideration being given to possibly building a satellite campus that would include housing, because that's a tremendous revenue source for the county?
I thought we already had a satellite campus on Mary's Avenue in the Sophie Finn School.
We do, but
No
that's
housing there either.
And how many satellite campuses do we need with a declining enrollment?
That's what Huey's saying. Is it going to be, let's build some housing and let's build a satellite campus and we'll close the one on Mary's Avenue? And that's the subtraction that we're talking about, is are they just going to be picking off these projects and leaving empty buildings in their wake? And that's got to be a concern. You know, the other thing I noticed, and I don't know if you've done this, but I actually went on their website and where they list all of their projects, and they list their projects, they list their investment, and they list what they pay in taxes. And I thought the tax bills were just a little lean in terms of, you know, paying $1 million or $1.5 million in taxes on a $200 million project. So these folks, you know, may not actually be the golden knights that they appear to be. If I'm understanding this process, they've got the deal going on, but when they come back to do a project, they're going to be looking for IDA, considerations on everything. That's what it sounds like to me. It looks like they've done that every place else they've gone.
Well, they very well may. But here's how I look at it. I have a property that's paying zero in taxes now because the county's going to own it. That's the situation we have with the West Campus. It's paying zero in taxes now. The National Resources Company comes in, and if they are successful in locating a 1 million square foot distribution center, I will tell you right now that between the planning, zoning, and building department fees, the town of Ulster will be getting a recognized revenue stream of close to $1 million in fees over a number of years as that progress goes about.
Yeah.
I've disclosed to you that there is going to be, if he wants to put his housing on there, we're moving towards putting a $3,000 a unit impact fee for recreational purposes. That's $450,000. Now I know that one of our favorite developers in this local community only pays about $150 per unit for senior citizen housing as this pilot, whereas recent deals have been $1,000 a unit. Now, if he puts 150 units in at $1,000 a unit, that's another $150,000 to the town. I have been elected by the town of Ulster citizens to protect the finances and run the town of Ulster. That's it. My responsibility stops at the property line, at the town lines. The decisions that the county and the school district make, that's theirs. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we get an adequate financial return for everything that we're sacrificing in the town and that the people are taken care of.
Wow. Should we re-elect this guy, Huey?
I was just thinking of that. It looks like a bumper sticker to me.
Sounds like a bumper sticker, right?
Actually, I liked your listing in your Christmas list for my 2021 present with my wife. A long cruise.
Yes.
And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Hey, good for you, James. Good for you. You know, what intrigues me about this whole process is, and I don't know if you were in at the beginning. Obviously, you're in it now, and you've been in it. What was the spark? Was it Brian going to Fishkill with his executive staff and pitching this thing to these guys who really weren't interested at first?
First of all, you got to understand, who put him in the position to be able to take control of the property? It was the actions of the town of Ulster Town Board and the assessor's office that fought tooth and nail, that played every delaying game possible with the tax certiorari actions in the court to the point that Ginsburg ended up losing the properties. It was the town of Ulster that put the valuations and then came up with a novel economic argument to the judge as to justify that valuation that resulted in taxes on a parcel that formerly paid no taxes. On top of that, it was the town of Ulster that called the EPA because Ginsburg was using the demolition piles as a deterrent to foreclosure because he knew the county wasn't going to step in and foreclose on him if they had to clean up. Okay? So I delivered to Pat Ryan and the Ulster County government the opportunity to make lemonade out of lemons. And to his credit, somebody whispered in his ear, told him to go see Joe Cotter, and the rest is history.
Okay. Circling back on something that Catalano raised, this workforce housing. They proudly announce and repeat that this operation is going to create 1,000 new jobs. Well, that's always good news. But then you dig a little deeper into the press release and you discover that half these new jobs are pretty much minimum wage. These are the kind of jobs that we've already done that up on the hill with the box stores. We're going to repeat it down by the railroad tracks.
The box stores are gone.
Exactly.
The box stores are gone because the retail environment changed and the fundamental economic situation within our market area changed to the point that the disposable income that was in the community could no longer support the amount of retailers. I mean, I've been repeatedly asked what happened to the mall. Well, bottom line is when you looked at the mall's tenant list, most of the tenants were servicing the teenage top portion of the population, with fashion. Well, our teenage population went down. The income went down, therefore they couldn't justify.
Well, Jim, these are policy issues. We understand that history, and things change. Obviously, as you put it, it's a dynamic situation. But when we're sitting at a conference table like the guys in Greene County did, and said, "This is what we have. We want jobs that support our community, not these $15 an hour jobs with no benefits and a huge turnover." This is essentially what this guy's proposing. Half these 1,000 jobs, quote unquote, nobody wants. I don't know if you can force a guy into it. I mean, as another example, you're talking about housing. If you want something, you're going to have to pay for it. Okay. That's a policy thing. your policy apparently is you don't want housing on that site, and if you want housing on that site, you're going to pay for it. Cool. That's okay. It's on the table. Why not put on the table, we don't want $15 an hour jobs?
That's not the responsibility of the town of Ulster government. If the county IDA, in considering a pilot for that site, comes to a conclusion, they want to enforce a policy decision, they're the appropriate party to put the requirements in. They're already the agency that is, if you promise me 100 jobs, you're going to deliver me 100 jobs. Or there's clawbacks to the benefits. Those are in the IDA documents. If they want to extend that, then they can extend that to include, well, we don't want any jobs less than $25 an hour. I just want to remind the listening audience, a number of years ago, the IDA promoted a policy that they wanted prevailing wage.
Under March Gallagher,
they wanted prevailing wage on every new project. Well, guess what? We didn't see a project for 3 years.
Yes.
Okay? We have to take and be conscious of what the market is. If we may not like it, but the best thing we can do is to try to to construct something where these people have an opportunity to grow. Okay? You look at Amazon's advertisements. Yes, they're bringing them in at $15, $18, $20 an hour for their warehouse workers. Is that adequate? Probably. In light of a living wage and the way it's calculated in this county under the CARES criteria, no. But they gave them full health insurance. What's that worth? They pay for college education. What's that worth? Okay? You look at the intangible benefits. The hardest thing as a supervisor is to just sit here and talk to a guy who's making $25 an hour and he's telling you he's having a hard time making ends meet. Well, that $25 an hour is $50,000 a year, but I'm paying $30,000 a year for your health insurance. And on top of that, I'm putting another $15,000 into your retirement account.
Let me just give you another example of what it apparently costs to live around here, or to have an affordable. I shared this with Catalano a couple of weeks ago, but it didn't make air. I ran into a police officer at Kingston City Hall. Young. Well, they're all young officers. This guy was probably in his mid-20s, and we got talking about Chief Tinty's concerns about he needs, I think, 10 or 12 new officers to replace the people who have retired, and to add 3 more that the council authorized in their in next year's budget. And so I took the sympathetic view that maybe it's just hard these days to recruit police officers because they're under a lot of stress and vilification and defund the police and some of those things that are going on. And the cop said to me, "No," he said, "we can deal with that. Cops have always dealt with various aspects of that." He said, "It's the wages." And I said, "Geez, $50,000 a year for a police officer, some 21-year-old person."
And at age 42, he will get a 50% retirement benefit and full health insurance benefits for the rest of his life.
My point, Jim, is that this is a young police officer, married with 2 children, and $50,000 a year, he feels, and I doubt if he's extravagant, $50,000 a year, which I would have died for in my working time, is not adequate.
Tomorrow morning, I will go to town hall and propose we double the wages for everybody in our town employment base. And can anybody live in the town after we have to affect the tax increases? That is the position that the supervisor is in. I can't answer whether it's adequate or not. I can only answer that if I did that and had to pay for it, nobody could pay to live. There's a balance
between how much you can tax the people and how much you can pay the employees.
That's correct. And I hear people coming to the town board meeting saying, "I'm tired of subsidizing these businesses." Does anybody understand that the businesses under the homestead, non-homestead taxing policy of the Kingston Consolidated School District, every commercial property pays 125% tax as opposed to the residential, which is paying 100%? So who's getting subsidized?
Good question. We're supposed to be asking you questions, though.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have any answers.
And my answers
We only have questions here.
My answers are strictly limited to the town of Ulster and to what I can do to keep the services going.
Okay, so very quickly, we got a few minutes left. Tell us about the old Hudson Valley Mall. Anything happening there? Last time you were here, you told us there was possibly a high-rise, there were going to be some other entities that were looking at it. Have you heard anything that you can share? Some sort of good cheer for the new year, some hope that...
You ask, some people would ask, why is it that he takes a position of no housing on Tech City? Because the town of Ulster has 2 distressed properties. Each property has a unique set of alternative uses. We've already tried putting a distribution center up at the Hudson Valley Mall, but because of Target and their ownership interest in the building and the land lease, and now with the medical center, you can't demolish the entire mall and put a distribution center up there. That goes off. That's eliminated as an option for the Hill.
Okay.
That can be done down below. Now, the guys down below want housing. The guys up on the hill want housing. There's not enough absorption, which means there's not enough people that are going to take up. If they build 300 units of housing between those 2 projects, somebody's going to get hurt. They're not going to be able to lease up fast enough, whatever. How can the town of Ulster government promote housing in both locations? We can't, because we're eating each other. Each project's eating each other.
Yeah, oh, sure.
So right now, our best hope is that the owners of the mall continue to search out in the retail market alternative tenancies from retailers. And there are some out there, there are some looking, and that's all I can say.
Okay.
We're looking for some type of an announcement that will change the face of the mall at some point in the first quarter of 2023.
I can tell you that I think they underestimate the buying power of the locals, because we've gotten a big infusion of people. The people who are driving up the real estate prices also have a tremendous amount of flexible income, and they have not been accounted for because they're all recently moving into the area. But I think retail stores are doing better than the ones that we have are doing better. I mean, I couldn't get down on Albany Avenue the other day. There were so many damn cars.
The anecdotal evidence is you go into Adams's parking lot at noontime, you see all the New York City, New Jersey-based car license plate holders.
Yeah.
Expensive cars, because I talk to employees in Adams, they're getting slammed. You look at some of the upscale retailers like Target, probably. They'll go to Target before they go to Walmart.
Absolutely.
They're doing fine. Target's going to be doing a renovation of their store. So you look around, but the question I have to ask, because I was here in 2000 the year 2000 when we looked at the outflows from 9/11. That lasted about a year to 2 years.
Yeah.
Everybody got tired of doing the commute. Now maybe this time's different because technology supports remote work better than it did 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll see. But if this population move is permanent, yes, we are going to have an increase, and this is demonstrated in the fact that the sales tax revenues in Ulster County are through the roof right now.
Yeah.
They are through the roof in the town of Ulster.
Yeah.
Now, if the car dealers only had some inventory, they'd be further through the roof, because in the sales tax equation, sales of automobiles are the largest generator of sales tax in the county.
We need...
Jim, is that sales tax agreement up for renewal anytime soon?
It was renewed in 2021. In the spring of 2020. No, in 2020, I believe.
That's like 2 years.
Yes.
2 years ago. And pretty much renewed, right?
Correct. And in that agreement, the towns were successful in negotiating a greater allocation of sales tax based upon exceeding the 2020 budgeted sales taxes.
Yeah. I presume you had a hand in that.
Both hands.
One pick in the pocket.
Both
Yeah,
hands.
You're right. There's a tremendous demand for automobiles. I just see it everywhere, and people are very frustrated that they can't find. It's crazy. Online sales are great, except when you have to try something on and it doesn't fit, and then all of a sudden it becomes a major Megillah to get the damn thing back to the company, et cetera, et cetera. My opinion is people like to try on clothing, and we should have more clothing stores.
Well, after I came back from my trip last week, my wife said, you need 3 pairs of new shorts, and by the way, here's the package from the mail order company. Go try them on. I'll return the ones you don't like.
Yeah, I know, but it's a nuisance.
Boxers or briefs?
Okay, well, listen, we want to thank you.
Yes, thanks, Jim. Always good to have you on.
You're always loaded with knowledge, and I think the listeners appreciate it. We answered the question of the individual that called about we weren't able to get to the nitty-gritty on the BOCES, but we did find out that they're at the table weighing their options. And we resolved the issue of the IBM rec center, which was another issue. Listen, you're in a really dynamic situation out there, because I think there's going to be a lot of going on. So anyway, thank you. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas to
And
everyone.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Yes, and Merry Christmas to all
And
you
a
guys,
Happy New
everyone.
Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll be back on Monday with Medical Monday.